Najee Harris joined a plethora of running backs in the NFL, seemingly just letting the world know, hey, we're not going to sit around and just take the beating that everybody's given us. Nobody gets paid after Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs both were unable to land long-term deals with their respective teams. I guess the whole running back world decided that they were going to voice their opinions. Apparently, there's a reported group chat going on, and step one of the process was complain about it on social media. Step two is possibly go to the owners and fight for respective compensation. I don't really know how you'd put it here or even what they're looking for, but Najee Harris made sure to put his opinion out there. Quote, I agree with my running back brothers around the NFL. History will show you that you need running backs to win. We set the tone every game and run tough or run through walls for our teams and lead in many ways. This notion that we deserve less is a joke. He didn't hold back. This comes after Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon, everybody and anybody who is a big name running back in the NFL seemingly sounded off on their displeasure with the running back market. What were your thoughts when you saw this from Najee?
Yeah, I mean, it's like what he's got to do. This is a guy who's also coming up on a contract year. This is an immediately pressing issue for him.
Yeah.
It's an immediately pressing issue for everyone, every running back in the NFL. I saw some stat yesterday that the average salary for a kicker in the league is basically twice as much as a running back. I mean, there's some context there that's important, but still, that was crazy to me. I do think we've kind of like, I don't know, because I do subscribe to the idea that, running backs investing a ton of money or a ton of years into one can be a dangerous game. But I feel like in some ways we've kind of swung too far in the other direction where, like, I don't know, Josh Jacobs and Saquon, I don't know how old they are, but particularly
like under the age of 26, I'm pretty sure. They're both 25, I want to say. Saquon might have just turned 26.
Yeah, and I see the same thing with Austin Eckler too. Like, how are these guys not getting long-term deals and a lot of money? I don't know. These aren't guys that I mean. Saquon's a little different. He's had some injury concerns, but Jacobs and Eckler and I can't think of anyone of some other.
Those are the big names right now. I feel like the ones fighting for a spot. Oh, Dalvin Cook is another one.
Yeah, I mean, these are guys who have been relatively durable for most of their career. It's not like I understand they take a huge beating, but it's not like that's affected their play very much at all, or their availability very much at all. And I think like when someone like Najee sees that, Najee's been incredibly durable too. He's played through injuries, and so I think for him to see kind of the writing on the wall and to understand, look, if I don't say something now, if I don't fight for this now, I'm going to get left behind like that.
Yeah.
I completely understand where they're coming from. And this is an immediately pressing issue for them to kind of take head on.
Yeah. I look at it two ways. I look at one side of it going, there are reports out there that Saquon was offered like $12 to $14 million a season, which is, that's the realm of everybody else. Christian McCaffrey, I believe, makes 16, but Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb make 12 and a half. So, you're kind of like in that realm of a big market. It's to the owner's side because, I'm always on the player side. Pay the players. Players deserve the money. But on the owner's side, I do kind of look at it and go, nobody wants to reset a market in a market that is as replaceable as a running back. And you do need running backs, but there are constantly big name running backs popping up all over the time, or all over the place. At the same time, these guys do deserve to get paid. And my questions are things like this, like Austin Eckler's asked for a trade and then has recently voiced his displeasure because the Chargers won't trade him or can't find a trade partner because they're asking for a first round or multiple first round picks. So if you value him that high, why aren't you paying him like you value him that high? That's my biggest question is like, where is the middle ground? Is the middle ground we do value you guys and we want you guys to make, 12 to $15 million, but we just want you to make it on a 2-year deal instead of a 4-year deal? Because if that's the case, then maybe we do find some middle ground. Or is it just, we kind of run this business. You are employees of this business. You're not really a crucial part to make everything run. I guess for the Giants, maybe Saquon is, but like, it's not like Vegas, you know, like Vegas is a defensive football team. If Max Crosby left, if I don't even know who else is in Vegas, but if Max Crosby or any of those, you know, big name defenders were just like, oh, we're gone. And this is speaking as somebody who doesn't watch Las Vegas football or is a fan of the Raiders. But if a big name like that left, you know, then you got conversation. Then fans are a little upset. If Josh Jacobs or if Saquon Barkley doesn't play, I bet you teams don't really take that big of a dip in, you know, fan appeal or any of that. And in Pittsburgh, when it comes to Najee Harris, it gets even worse because you have half the fan base already who's sitting around saying Jaylen Warren should be the starter, and it's time to put Jaylen Warren in there after two, I mean, good, but like not electric seasons from Najee Harris. So he's fighting with his back up against the wall. On top of that, my thing with Najee is I don't see how he survives the running back market and everything that's happening, because if the Steelers don't pick up his 5th-year option, he's 27 years old at the end of his rookie contract. If they do pick up his 5th-year option, he's 28 years old at the end of his rookie contract. At that point, you're older than Dalvin Cook, who just got released. You're older than Ezekiel Elliott, who just got released, who are both looking for jobs. You know, at what point do you just kind of like acknowledge like that expiration date might not be me, you know, and maybe he is a Frank Gore, maybe he is a Fred Jackson or any of these long-term guys, but you're still 28 years old and maybe you're not, and maybe you're looking at a really low deal no matter what the situation is or how the running back market changes in the next 2 years.
Yeah, I think Najee's a different situation for all those reasons that you laid out, but I don't know. I don't think that Eckler and Saquon and Josh Jacobs are as replaceable as everyone seems to kind of treat them as. Like, I don't know. I look at the Vikings and I don't think I think who's their backup? Alexander.
Yeah, it's like Alexander Mattinson or something.
Yeah, you think he's going to be as good and as valuable too? Yeah, you think like Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to feel the effects of not having the threat of the NFL's leading rusher like in the backfield? Like that obviously changes the. And then like Austin Eckler is like half of the Chargers offense. Like that's
more than that. Yeah,
right.
He's like the lone wolf for me. Yeah, like he is the guy that he's young. He's never been injured. He consistently scores 1 billion touchdowns, and he does everything that you ask for well. Like, if there's any of them, like, you could kind of like pick and choose, like, Josh Jacobs, he had a phenomenal year, but he kind of had to bet on himself. It was like a 2-year come up. Austin Eckler to me is just like, dude, the guy's phenomenal. He's been phenomenal forever. Pay the man.
Yeah, and that's the one that just I get hung up on. Like, yeah, you can make some excuses for other players around the league, but I think when you look at the top and you look at a guy like Eckler and he's being dealt with in that way, that I think gives these arguments that Najee and everyone else around the league are making a lot of merit. There is some kind of that's when I think we've swung too far in the other direction and we've started to think of running backs as less valuable than specific running backs, you know, as less valuable than they actually are. Because I don't think even in Pittsburgh, like Jaylen Warren is that, you know, can easily step in and do what Najee has done, rushing for 1,000 yards over the last 2 seasons. I don't think, I just don't think that's how it. Jaylen Warren's just plainly not as good as Naji Harris. I think that's pretty clear, and I think that's where we've kind of lost our way. We've taken this idea that has some merit, and we've taken it to an extreme that doesn't really deserve.
Yeah, I do agree with that one. I 100% agree with that one. I think that the problem is when it comes to Najee is there's a drop off. You know what I mean? Like there's the Saquons, the Derrick Henrys, the Nick Chubbs. Who Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, they got their deals. Christian McCaffrey's got his deal, and then there's the Saquons, the Josh Jacobs, the Austin Ecklers. That's like tier 1. And there's, you know, Dalvin Cook is in there. Tony Pollard's probably in there. Like all those guys. Then like tier 2, I think is where like Najee fits in. And I don't even think he's like top of the pack tier 2. Yeah. I think that he's like, you know, he's just in the tier 2. And I think that tier 2 is much easier to replace than tier 1. Now, when it comes to Najee, there are things that you can't replace. You can't replace the durability. This guy has taken a beating for 2 years, has played through injuries that shut down most players. You know, he he works so hard on his body and staying healthy that it is very, very difficult to replace what Najee brings in that aspect. The leadership. Najee is a born leader. He's since the second he stepped in here, you could kind of feel that he has taken over the locker room and he's a voice for the offense. And he's a guy that, he'll put things together. He's a leader. That's incredibly hard to do. And like, there's like a clutch gene to some guys. And I think Najee's got it. That game in Baltimore last year, it was just like a moment where it's just like, if I got to throw it to somebody, Najee's a guy that I would want to throw it to. If I need a couple of yards, Najee's a guy that I'm putting on the field because I know he can get a couple of yards. Those types of things make him very difficult to replace. But like just general talent wise, I mean, like he's a good NFL running back, but there are a lot of just good NFL running backs, and they're constantly coming into the league. Now, how you replace him, I think, is different, but I think that he's fighting an uphill battle in this whole situation compared to, some of these other guys. Do you think that anything changes in the next 2 years? You see a turn of events here? You see anybody, kind of overstepping this? Did you see Le'Veon Bell tweet out that he was
the Bugs Life thing?
He was the Bugs Life thing. He is the leader of this entire thing, changed the game, the innovator, I think he called himself.
Well, I think he did change the game in some way.
Yeah.
I don't think he changed it in the way that he meant to. He
tried.
He tried certainly very hard. And I think he changed the game, but he did not change it in the way he wanted to. I didn't understand his tweet very much. It's been a while since I've watched Bugs Life.
Yeah, same. In my eyes, I was just like, oh, don't they all like die or something? I don't know how this works out. My thing with Le'Veon is I agree with that, but what followed, I think, did way more damage than it did good. Like the fact that he did hold out and was just like, I'm going to reset the market. It's going to happen. And now he has to put out apology speeches about, I should have never left. I should have just taken the deal. And then like the guys that followed him, like you got to remember, like Melvin Gordon was the next year. And he was like, nah, I'm holding out. Look where Melvin Gordon is now. He finished the year on the Kansas City Chiefs, like practice squad or something. I get it. He won a Super Bowl, but he doesn't play. Like, I think that it just like the chain of events that followed Le'Veon, like trying to change the market really put a damper on. I think it just showed the NFL just like, yeah, man, like, yeah, it's really not that big of a deal. We'll be fine.
Yeah, and I guess James Conner didn't. I mean, not his fault. Like there's blame to go around, but James Conner didn't do him any favors either.
Nope.
By playing.
No, and neither did Austin Eckler. That's how it worked out. James Conner came in for Le'Veon Bell, stole the show, was a stud his first year. Like when he was healthy, James Conner was a monster in Pittsburgh, and Melvin Gordon leaves. Or sits out. I believe it was Austin Eckler steps in here, and now Austin Eckler is Austin Eckler. So the NFL just went, yeah, buddy, who cares? Like you could leave tomorrow. We'll figure it out. And I just think that did a lot of damage to the running back market. I do think that there are guys that are unreplaceable. That like Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb. You can't replace those. And I think Saquon and Josh Jacobs are on there. Dalvin Cook is a guy that I think is on there, but at the same time, like he does have the injuries. So, I can kind of see it, but let me go back real quick before we change topic here. Do you think it changes in the next 2 years?
Maybe not in the next 2 years. I think it's a little longer term, but I think you're going to get to a point where like, to me, I think it's going to look like the quarterback market a little bit. Not, kind of that lucrative, but, teams are going to try to go cheap on, like there's a certain level of elite quarterback that you need to like compete for Super Bowls and stuff like that. I don't know if that's necessarily true for running backs, but I think you can kind of tier them in the same way. And there's a big drop off in between, those elite running backs and kind of the mid and the low tier and teams are going to try to go cheap on this, and it's going to be widespread and it's not going to work out. And I think we're going to kind of go through this again, and the running backs will be able to push back, make a little bit more ground. And I think eventually get to that point, like you said, where there's a middle ground where, okay, teams are willing to invest more money, especially if like, the salary cap goes up or something over the next few years. I feel like that seems inevitable too. But teams are going to like, say, we'll give you the money, but it's 2 years instead of 3 years or 4 years or something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the only way to kind of find a middle ground here for a position that people are worried is not going to pay off long term is to just shorten the deals. And I think the running backs just kind of got to deal with that. But you go back and this is, I know I'm ranting at this point, but I like started to look at guys that like, I bring up like Frank Gore and Fred Jackson. I realized quickly Fred Jackson only played 10, 11 years in the NFL. It just seemed like he was here forever. And Frank Gore only signed 2 big deals. And then after that, it was just 1-year deal on top of 1-year deal on top of 1-year deal for like 6, 7 years. And I think that's what, you know what I mean? Like you hit a point at the position where even if you're Frank Gore, you're Frank Gore, you're a running back. And at some point your body's going to shut off and teams got to be prepared for that. So I think that's the middle ground is you kind of just shorten the deals and the running backs sadly have to accept that.